Most of you think your network isn't working. It is. You're just using it wrong. You're talking to all the wrong people in all the wrong rooms and having the wrong conversations. And then wondering why nothing turns into business. So today, we're fixing that live. Drop what you do in chat, and I'll show you exactly where your networking is broken. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Donnie Bovee, CEO and founder of Success Champion Networking and the Badass Business Summit. And today we're going to talk about why and how your networking is actually broken. Um, it's fascinating to me to watch how people show up in networking, the things that they're doing, the ways that they're actually operating, and how they're not actually getting networking to be productive, get ROI, or actually work with them. Right. So the things that I know that it's not a lead problem, it's not a visibility problem, it's not a proximity problem. Like you don't need more people, you need the right people already in the rooms with your ideal client. So I was talking to a gentleman today, and he does a lot of work in the leadership space. He happens to do it with a lot of manufacturing companies, and as we were talking, I asked him a question to kind of help him wrap his head around how networking should really be working for him. And I said, if you pictured one of your CEOs that, runs a manufacturing company that you currently work with, when he's frustrated with the things going on in the business, I said, who is he bitching and moaning to that does not work in the company? Like, who's a person he's going to talk to about the problems he currently has in the business? And he says, oh man, let me tell you, I know for a fact his business attorney is his number one person that he tells all his problems with on growth and struggles. They're like, they literally meet, every other month to sit down and talk about it. And I said, cool, who else? And he said, I'm going to make an assumption. He goes, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to make an assumption that it's his accountant that's hearing everything else that they're frustrated with when it comes to the business. And then I asked him one question that began to help him flip this on its lid a little bit for him. I said, what would happen if you would have been introduced to that business attorney or that accountant prior to ever working with that company? I said, do you think that if you had a strong relationship with either one of those, that they might have brought your name up when the CEO was bitching and moaning about the things that they were struggling in their company? And he didn't skip a beat. He goes, absolutely, I thought they would. He goes, if they're consistently hearing all the moans and groans, complaints, and the gripes, and all the things that the CEO is pissed off about, if it's like a friend, if you have a real time solution, like odds are you're going to bring that real time solution up to the person that's moaning and groaning. I said, well, imagine this. What happens when you meet 10 or 20 business attorneys over the next, few months, or you meet a couple of CPAs over the next month or so? And he sat there and he thought for a second, and he went, holy shit. If I actually met 10 business attorneys that were focused on, manufacturing companies around 20 to $100 million, he goes, I think I would actually do a ton of business. And I said, this is where I want you to start thinking and rethinking about where you're networking. I said, if you were to look at the places you're currently networking, where you're hanging out, where you're going, or the people you're networking with, how many of those are business attorneys? How many of those are CPAs? How many of those are speaking directly to your best clients and are hearing the moaning, the groaning, the complaining of, where your best potential clients, who's got their ear? Who are they talking to? And he really sat back and thought and goes, man, I'm actually networking in a lot of place that has nobody talking to my ideal clients. I said, so tell me a little bit about the rooms. And he said, well, the one place I go to is inside my local chamber. And, there's real estate agents, mortgage, there's title, there's a chiropractor. He's like, nobody in there literally would ever be talking to my ideal clientele. I said, what do you think now, thinking through that, if you had the ear of the person they were bitching and moaning to, right? How does that make you rethink that room? He goes, dude, it's a wrong room altogether. He goes, matter of fact, pretty much everywhere I'm currently networking is the wrong room. There's nobody selling into those same side companies. And I said, what would change if you found the room where everybody in that room was focused on the same type of company? I said, so you imagine this manufacturing firm. Inside that manufacturing firm, you have that you freaking, put out there. So you take the manufacturing firm, you have all of these departments. You have operations, you have finance, you have sales, you have marketing, you have logistics, you have shipping, right? If you have all these different departments inside of that manufacturing firm, if you had somebody that was focused on each one of those departments inside the company, working with you, or networking with you, how much more business would happen uh, for you? How much bigger would the business actually be? So as we continue on with this, segment, it's all about, how do you get your networking right? Like, how do you get networking actually working for you? And what I want you to always think through is, most times when you're networking, right, especially if you're selling 5, 6, 7 figure deals, the people that you're networking with, they have to be selling at that same level too. And if the people you're around, the people you're hanging with, are not selling at the level to the same type of people you're selling to, there's going to be a lot of socializing and not a lot of actual referrals or business to get done. See, networking was created in the B2C, or selling to consumer space. So it was created by real estate agents, mortgage, titles are all great people, but everybody they talk to is a potential client. When you're selling into manufacturing, industrial, you're selling into bigger companies, the people that you're selling to are never in these networking rooms or never in these networking conversations. So you have to understand, you are literally networking through people, not networking to people. And so you have to understand that the people you're talking to aren't the people who are going to buy your stuff. So you need to align yourself with people who are right at the moment when a company is going to bring you in, that are solving an issue that's literally adjacent to you. That those are the people that you need to be networking with, networking around. So I often think about, if I'm selling into manufacturing companies, cool. Where's the manufacturing association I'm hanging out with? Where's the logistics company? Where are they going to get their industry knowledge, their industry, wisdom? Where are they learning from their peers? Right. So what I find is, if you can get around the people that are, yeah, adjacent to you, a lot more business actually happens, and a lot more things, continue to grow and move through. So what I want you to really get dialed into is, let's get really hyper focused on your best perfect client. They call it your ICP, your ideal client profile. Map that out. Who is that perfect client for you? Once you understand that perfect client, think about, what other vendors do they work with? Who all else are they buying from? Who else has their ear? Like, who are they bitching and moaning to when they're thinking about, their company and the things that you fix? Like, who's hearing those things? Right. And then once you understand who those vendors are that are hearing those things, that have their ear, where are they hanging out? And for a lot of you, they're going to be, of course, on LinkedIn, but they're also going to be inside, associations. They're going to be inside of coordinated events, and, like, if it's construction, there's entire organizations around construction. There's specifically focused on networking and the like. So it opens up a lot more unique opportunities that allow you to get into the right conversations. So when you think about networking, is the rooms you're going in, are they leveling you up? Are they pulling you down? Are they actually pushing you forward, or are they holding you back? So instead of looking at networking as how do I find my next client, start looking at networking as how do I find the best vendors that clients are already working with? How do I champion them so they will eventually champion me and bring my name up in the right conversations? So this is how I reframed all of networking, and this is what has allowed me to build all the things that I've currently built. So if you got any value out of this, do me a favor, please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. If you're watching this on replay, feel free to drop in questions, ask questions. Happy to take you through your ICP and work with you through it, and get it dialed in. I just want you guys to win. So thanks for hanging out with me. I do this every week. We're starting some new unique things coming up, but like and subscribe, follow for more. Love you, mean it. See you. Bye.